I've always believed that security needs to be end-to-end and comprehensive. And this age of AI, that is even more critical than ever before.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jonathan Jones, Customer Experience PM with the Microsoft 365 Customer Advocacy Group, and we are here live at the Microsoft 365 Community Conference. And I am here with Vasu Jakkal, who just came off the stage for her amazing keynote. Vasu, what are your first reactions after coming off the stage?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's great to be here. Thank you, Jonathan,
Absolutely.
for having me, and I'm looking forward to our chat. Well, my first impression when at the conference, of course, is this power of community. I feel it every single time I'm at the M365 Community Conference. Felt it in Vegas, feeling it in Orlando. And it's so important because security is a team sport. So just having everyone in the journey on security, thinking security first, was pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, of course, is in the name itself, and we really like to lean into that aspect of community here. So in your keynote, you did talk a lot about, just building trust and being secure in all of the AI innovations that we're doing. As leaders think about, going back to their businesses, going back to their companies, how do you think, or what do you think is one way they can really actionize on what you shared in the keynote today?
Yeah, we talked about the era of the agentic AI in the keynote, and we talked about the importance of trust, and that the root of that trust is really security. The one thing I would say that I would recommend for all leaders is for securing agentic AI, you need to start with foundations. And we talked a lot about data foundations, which is very important because AI uses this data. AI is only as effective as the data it uses. And making sure that that data is secure and governed is critical right now. So I would say the key takeaway is please start with your foundations. Make sure that that data is classified, that it has the right labeling, like confidential labeling. Make sure you have the right policies so your AI knows what to access, what not to access. Make sure that you are treating agents the same way you would treat humans and have the right data security controls for that. And that you are also looking at those risks holistically around data. So I would say start with foundations, start with data, and then of course move to identity and threats.
Absolutely, that's amazing. And with that common theme of security being the foundation, it really is changing the way leaders and organizations are thinking about security. And one of the things you really talked about was layering security into every step of the way, as opposed to it being an afterthought. What does that look like really as a change behavior, and how can we really see that implemented today?
Yeah. It's a great point, Jonathan, because our belief is that security needs to be ambient and autonomous, and that really is our vision for this agentic era. And the reason it needs to be ambient and autonomous is because AI is ambient and autonomous, especially as agents are coming into the workforce. And what that looks like for organizations, for all of us, is when you are using agents or using AI and building AI, you need to weave security right from the foundations like your infrastructure to the platforms and cloud that AI is built on, all the way to agents and apps. And that's what we mean by start there so that you have security as a core primitive, defending against threats, ensuring great data security and governance, managing and securing your identity and access. These are all core things that we need to do, and you need to do it across your stack.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And you really talk about, that frontier innovation concept. And part of that is really, the big part of that is really keeping humans at the center, as you talked about in your keynote. And with, agents being a thing, with automated processes being a thing, again, what does that really look like to keep humans at the center? Because we do need to keep that humanity and that component of, really leaning into the AI.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the notion of frontier transformation. And just as a recap, what that frontier transformation is, it's an evolution, is the next phase of AI transformation. When AI transformation started with Gen AI, a lot of our conversation was finding information and becoming more productive. And that's important, absolutely. We do that every day. But we do, and we should expect more from AI. And that's what frontier transformation is about. It's about that human ambition, which is at the heart of it. And how do we unlock that? How do we unleash our creativity? Help us get to those new paradigms of our own potential. And how do you have these breakthroughs? So that's what frontier transformation is. Humans, agents working together with human ambition at the center, with the human in the center. And for frontier transformation, we needed a success framework. We talked about the 4 pillars: employee experiences, reimagining customer engagement, reshaping business processes, and of course, bending the curve of innovation. And for all of that, the fundamental blocks are intelligence and trust. Your intelligence, your organization's intelligence, using AI to amplify that, all built on a foundation of trust, which is where we talk about security. So for this frontier transformation, it needs to start with security, because as you and I both know, all of the innovation today is happening against a backdrop of an ever-escalating threat landscape. Cybercrime costs our world $11.6 trillion. And so if we don't take that into account, as these technologies become more powerful, malicious actors are going to use it for all kinds of malicious reasons, and we need to be very, very, very vigilant about that.
Absolutely, we have to be prepared for it, and part of that is maintaining, a relationship with AI. It's not just, putting it to work and say make it happen. It's really, keeping that constant communication in a way, and building that relationship and knowing how to use it properly. And part of that, the last piece of what you said is there is a lot of risk with AI, with cybersecurity. There is a lot of noise in the AI world itself. So how do you imagine, people really focusing in on what it's like to lean into that frontier innovation?
Yeah, and the great news on the frontier innovation, let's start there, is that agents are already joining the workforce. IDC predicts that by 2028, there'll be 1.3 billion agents. Our own research at Microsoft indicates that 80% of Fortune 500 are building and using agents. So that transformation has started, which is fantastic. But this transformation and this excitement also is kind of weighed down by some of the anxiety that people are feeling from a security standpoint. I talk to a lot of security teams, chief security officers, and they're concerned about how do they manage all these agents along with all of this other AI that now they have to look at, new attack surfaces, new ways of attacking using AI-powered attacks. So there's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of challenges that we need to think through. And the way we think it, if I were to distill all the noise, I think there are 4 challenges which surface to the top. The first one is data oversharing. 80% of organizations and leaders we talk to say data is their biggest concern right now, because AI uses data. And if that data is not protected, then AI is going to use it. It's not going to know. And so you want to make sure that you have the right qualifiers and the right guardrails for that. The second thing, which is super evident in all the conversations, is agent sprawl. Agents. How are you observing them? How are you managing them? How are you governing them? How are you securing them? That's a big one. 82% of leaders are going to use agents in the next 18 to 24 months, in addition to all the people are using it. So that's top of mind. The third one is compliance. It continues to be top of mind. Over the last year, we've seen dozens of AI-related regulations, and regulations are hard to even understand, let alone comply with. So how do you keep up, right? They're there for a reason. And then the last one, very importantly, is defending against threats. Of course, existing threats, where think phishing, which is now more effective because of AI, or just overall social engineering, password cracking, but also these new novel techniques like jailbreaks and prompt injections, model poisoning. How do you do that? So those are the 4 things which are really coming to the top, and those are the ones that we are really focused on. So we're distilling the noise to help organizations transform themselves by addressing these challenges.
Absolutely, that's amazing. That's 4 amazing tips right now on how you could really focus in and lean into security for your organization. And you, again, leaning into the frontier innovation, how are you seeing some organizations outside of Microsoft really get this right today? And also with that, what is it that gives you the confidence that organizations can continue to learn to implement security and trust the right way?
Yeah, what I love about so many of the organizations we talk to is they are using this moment, Jonathan, to go and do all of the security work that they needed to do anyways, which is great. They say never let a good crisis go wasted, right? So it's a little bit like that, but it's also like all this opportunity. So what we're seeing is the big thematic is, hey, we are in this agentic age and we have to secure agentic AI. So great. But the organizations who are, I feel like, really getting ahead of it, they have a 3-pronged approach. First, they're starting with the foundations. And they're using this moment to say, we've got to get the right hygiene. Data hygiene, identity hygiene, and threat protection hygiene. Fantastic. So they're going and addressing all of these data security, compliance, governance challenges that we talked about, from oversharing to leakage, by the right policies, right classification, insider risk, compliance management, all of that. The second thing they're saying, okay, for identities, we need to make sure we're securing access. Even things like our favorite multi-factor protection, right? Like, you'll be surprised, like how many organizations don't have that. And not only that, but like phishing resistant credentials, making sure you have conditional access deployed. They're going and addressing that identity hygiene and modernizing identity. And the third is they're using the latest threat protection technologies to make sure they have like 24/7 response and monitoring. So securing foundations. The second thing they're doing is securing agents. So all of these same technologies, like in our case, we use Purview for data security and Entra for identity and Defender for threat protection with Sentinel. Yeah. They're using the same solutions because we've expanded them for agents, and they're securing their agents. Fantastic. So they're securing the data for the agent, the identity, like assigning them an identity and defending against threats. And then the third thing they're doing is they know that there's no way to keep up in an AI threat landscape with the way they were doing security. Yeah. So they're using agentic security. They are using agents in the flow of work. They're using an agentic platform which has all of their data, which they can use graphs with. And so those are the three things: secure the foundations, secure your agents, use agentic security. Yeah. And that's what I'm seeing like the leading organizations do in a very structured way, and it's exciting to see that.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's essentially it's a formula, it's a recipe that we're continuing to build and innovate on.
Right.
And I like how you talked about, Purview, Defender, Entra, Security Copilot, and really bringing those together. What does it mean to really look at those as a unified approach as opposed to, separate products and spaces within security?
Yeah, I've always believed that security needs to be end-to-end and comprehensive. And this age of AI, that is even more critical than ever before. So the way we think about it is we are building an agentic end-to-end platform, an agentic end-to-end security platform. Sentinel is the foundation. It brings together that data lake capability. So you have all your data, whether it's federated data from other clouds, Microsoft data. It connects to 350 plus connectors and brings all of that information. It has a graph where attackers think in graphs. So defenders need to think in graph. And so Sentinel has a graph layer, and it has MCP layers, so your AI can access that. So Sentinel is the foundation. Defender, Entra, Intune, Purview, the sensors, the apps, they are the ones that are from threat protection to identity to your data. They are operating on Sentinel to help you protect comprehensively across the estate. And then Copilot agents, Security Copilot, which is like amazing. They're now embedded in all of these. We have more than 75 agents now, Jonathan, which is amazing. Wow. And so many, the majority are from our partners. It's fantastic. So you have agents like Phishing Triage Agent in Defender, which can help you protect against phishing and triage all of, especially the false alerts. You have Conditional Access Agent in Entra, helping you assign identities really quickly. You have a Insider Risk and Data Security Alert Triage Agent in Purview, which can help you action on this data. You have a Device Management Agent in Intune. So these agents and many, many more then form this system. And over time, going back to my ambient and autonomous, these are the agents, because attackers don't think in silos, right? So we can't say, oh, this is just endpoint protection identity. Yeah. That's why the platform is important, because these agents will work with each other using all of this data, and that's kind of where the world is headed, like this autonomous loop where agents and people work together.
Yeah, and I love how you pointed out the fact that so many of those agents come from our customers and our partners, and it's building this ecosystem, of trust with each other.
Totally.
And it's so fast-paced, as we know. It's moving very rapidly. AI, security. How do you balance, really trying to stay secure, but also trying to keep up with AI at the same time?
Oh. So a couple of things. It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to just keep up with everything. Well, I use AI to keep up with AI. Yep. I think that's probably the best way I can say it, and that's why I'm a big believer of security is one of the best use cases for AI. I have built my own agents, like everyone, to just keep up with what's happening and the news and the intelligence and how do we use it. And then kind of using all of these technologies, how do we change the paradigm of innovation? Like right now, I feel like a kid in a candy shop, right? And I love candies. I feel like you have all this technology around, like you have all these amazing tools, and it's so exciting to experiment with them. So I'm having so much fun. So that's how I keep up, and I feel like I'm learning faster and more. And then the second thing is I've always believed that productivity and security are two sides of the same coin, but they're not against each other. People always think, oh, I need to be productive, so I need to think about security. No, actually, security can be the best catalyst for productivity. And so I think about like how do I, whether I'm designing security or helping customers understand it, use security as a paradigm shift for productivity. So both personally using AI and then using AI at work to ensure that we are doing the right things for security and productivity. It's fun times.
It is. It's fun to experiment and continue learning yourself, which is a perfect bridge into our last question today. One thing that I really just want you to share with us, and you mentioned a bit, you use AI yourself to keep up with AI, which I love and I do as well. How do you continue yourself to stay curious about learning in this age of AI? And what are maybe some habits or practices that you implement to, again, yourself keep up and continue your own learning?
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan, learning is going to be the superpower of this age, because curiosity is such an important trait. There's so much changing that if we just rely on what we knew, we're never going to be able to stay in tune with what's happening, let alone use it. Some of the habits that I love reading as well. So some of my habits is I told you I've created some agents, and so I get a daily briefing when I start, and I have like different areas. There's like on the global like economics or news, but also AI related news. I get a briefing on that. I use AI in my content is a great place where I use AI. If I have to write a note or a blog, especially blogs and things where I have a point of view, AI is such a great thought partner where you can just put your ideas and you can say in Copilot and say, hey, I'm thinking of this particular idea and I want you to help me write it out, help me form, develop better content for this. The third thing, I use AI a lot for research. So we have a researcher agent in Copilot, and I use that heavily. I love strategy work. So when we're doing strategy work on whether it's a market analysis, its competitors and what are they doing, or even the work we have at Microsoft, which is this large body of work, what are all the teams doing, and help me really get, if I want to develop a new security solution, and if I want to think about what's the strategy where we want to go, I use that a lot. So those are three things. One, for just keeping up to date and learning about new things, staying curious.
Absolutely.
The second, on staying curious about how can I do better content and write better stories so we are engaged and we are understanding. And the third one is how do I do better research as we are building. And those are I use both assistive and agentic technologies for both. But I do love learning. And a last habit, if I may share that, I listen to a lot of podcasts on AI as well. And that's great because when you're driving or when you're at home just winding up, or when you're working out, which I don't do a lot, I probably want to do a lot, you're walking. It's great to listen to a podcast, and it's a very engaged way of understanding what people are doing. And there's just such a rich set of content and podcasts out there on AI right now. So that's how I stay curious.
That's amazing. Those are some amazing habits that we can all implement today. And what I really love kind of interwoven throughout all of those habits and concepts is just staying curious. There isn't a finish line for learning. There isn't a finish line for AI, but it's continued, building and learning all together as a community. So Vasu, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. It's been a pleasure. Any last thoughts or any, going into this last day of the conference, anything you're excited about to wrap up?
Well, it's been a super pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for listening. I think I'll leave you with one thing is no great things in life or in our world have ever happened when we are alone. And a community creates belonging, and that is important for us to be our best selves, for us to do our best innovation. Along with staying curious, the aspect of team sport is really important to me. You know, we all need our village. Like even when we're
Yeah.
staying curious, like what are you up to, Jonathan? And we learn so much from each other. So I'll leave you with one is, it's great to see this community. Everything is a team sport. AI is a team sport. Security is a team sport. And let's work together
Absolutely.
to do things which, you know, were considered impossible before.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you heard it here first. Continue building your team because AI is a team sport. Well, thank you again. Again, my name is Jonathan Jones here with the Microsoft 365 Community Conference, and we are closing out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.